Hey, what's up guys? So you guys aren't gonna believe this. I had an opportunity to buy another XJS motor and I bought it. So far, I've taken off the intake manifolds and I vacuumed up the valley a little bit, but so far I'm liking what I'm seeing. I looked down into the valves with the flashlight. I'm not seeing anything in there or seats falling or failing, so that's awesome. And before I went any further, I just wanted to start filming. So really quickly, the plans for this engine is actually it's going to be put into the XJS. I did put a lot of time and effort into that engine, but it's just so much easier to replace all the gaskets and everything else with the engine out. And so when this came up, I jumped on it. So I'm really happy to get it. And it's a complete engine, has the wiring harness, obviously the intake's over there. It still has the air pump, all the front end accessories, everything. The guy literally took everything out and he's actually swapping in a small block Chevy. So I was more than happy to pick it up from him and go from there. He told me it's a 1987, so same year as my car, which is awesome. And I really want to go crazy with the engine. I guess kind of a race engine, but a street engine at the same time. I want to port the heads, try to increase the valve size. It being an 87, it's an HE motor, but I want to try to unsurround the valves, kind of like an LS7 combustion chamber. Also, the water rails, I really want to convert these into a solid rail opposed to having seals, and increasing the diameter of the pipe and having somebody or myself to aluminum weld or to weld aluminum pipe from here and here, and then also utilize the two extra ports. That way you can get more cooling. Obviously the Simply Performance tubular manifolds or headers are going to be put on the car or on this engine. Something else that is going to be awesome, and it's going to happen with this engine, is that I'm swapping the Turbo 400 to a 5-speed manual. I think I'm set on a TKO 600, so I am currently looking for one of those, and then also really want to swap out all the oiling, the oil, I guess, pipes and everything like that to stainless steel braided lines, and then getting this thing on an engine stand and being able to replace the sandwich plate gasket, the oil pan gasket, obviously the head gaskets, and everything else. This is so much more easier to do it this way opposed to trying to do everything in the car, which is what I've been doing. It's possible. It's just, it takes so much more time, money and effort, in my opinion. So I think this will be the best route and the best way to go about it. One thing I didn't realize is how big these torque converters are. Looking at this, I mean, this thing is, you find that thing on a truck. That is crazy to me. So aluminum flywheel will definitely waken up the engine a lot. But anyways, I'm gonna put you guys on the time lapse, and I'm gonna get to stripping this thing. Okay, and one last thing I wanted to accomplish for tonight was removing the torque converter. That was easily done by removing the starter and getting a 14 mil socket in there. Rotate the engine clockwise. Do not rotate it counterclockwise, otherwise you'll snap your timing chain tensioner, and that would be bad. Next thing I want to tackle is removing the front end accessories. Obviously alternator, smog pump, power steering, obviously all of the crossover pipe for the thermostat housing and water rail. Next thing also is going to be the distributor, all the spark plug wires, and the pedestal for the throttle sensor. So that will be fun. The last thing I want to do, or the last thing that's going to be removed off the engine, is the heads. and obviously everything associated with that, so like camshafts, cam sprockets, timing chain, the front end, timing cover, and all that. That's going to be in a separate video. This is just going to be the first half of the build, and then obviously I'll be taking a break from the engine build just because parts for this engine aren't cheap. Making parts for the engine takes time and stuff like that, so this is definitely going to be a winter project. I'm just stripping it down to a bare block. That way I can get the heads off to a machine shop, the block dunked and cleaned, and go from there. I'm really excited to start this build though. There's no time frame or deadline that I have for it. I just want to take my time with it and do everything right. But anyways, with that all being said, it is 11:20 going on 11:30. I want to call it for tonight. But the beautiful thing about editing, it's only going to take a second for you guys. So without further ado, let's go to the time lapse. Alright y'all, and just like that, the front end accessories, if I could speak, are off. Everything came off pretty well. Let's see, any tips? Actually, here's a big one. The bolt that goes here that holds on the alternator bracket, make sure that you have a wrench on this side, as well as obviously the nut you're trying to take off. Make sure you have a wrench here because that will stop it from coming out. One thing I didn't do when I was rebuilding the other engine, or taking the heads off the other engine, was I didn't do that, and I ended up stripping the bolt, not the threads inside the block thankfully, but the bolt. And I had to wait, I think it was like a week for that bolt just to come in. So make sure you do that. Trying to think of anything else here. Transmission lines came off really nicely. One thing I did not get to that I said I was going to, and I'll probably just do this off camera really fast, is take off the pedestal as well as the coil and the oil pressure sending unit, as well as vacuum all of this because that's really bothering me. On the other side, I don't think I touched the other side. Oh, I took off the wiring harness that is over there. Everything that I've taken off so far is in a little pile over here, and I'm obviously labeling the bags. Very smart to do that, and the mess just continues to get bigger and bigger. So now I gotta clean up this before I head out of here, but really fast I'm gonna vacuum up this, get these two pieces off, and keep on working. Okay, so that's done. Little sensor pedestals off, 4 7/16 or 4 11mm bolts, and then the oil pressure sending unit's also off. Cleaned up the valley, took off the gaskets, and the engine is looking a lot better. Also, I did take off the AC bracket up here and here. If you decide to do that, you need to buy shorter bolts and or just spacer it. For this engine, I'm obviously going to get shorter bolts. It'll look better. And this is the bolt that I was talking about earlier. I put it back in to show you guys. And also I misspoke. This is the power steering, not the alternator. Get a wrench on this side while you get at the nut on this side. Just because if you just impact it from here, it's going to pull, and you will eventually ruin either the bolt or the threads, and you obviously do not want to do that. So there we go. And it's a good sized bolt, so you don't wanna ruin that. One thing, and I will show you guys everything that we took off the engine so far, is that these are coming out. These will be replaced with bolts. I am not using the, I guess, the idler pulley that it would be called, that goes right here. And actually, here is everything that we took off the engine so far. Again, I apologize for the mess, but that is everything. So I kind of organized this in a keep discard pile. So You're obviously still using the stock intake manifolds for right now. I'm not using the air pump rails. I'm not using that crossover pipe that goes to the charcoal canister. I want to redo obviously the fuel lines, fuel rails. That's a must with these cars. And also deleting the A-bank fuel pressure regulator that is currently done on that car. And then also getting rid of the ignition amplifier as well. One thing I would like to point out as well is do this, like one of the first things that you do is that you should take off the camshaft oil feed lines, especially if you're just taking off the heads. That would usually go here from the oil pressure sending unit down here. If you're just taking off the heads, obviously just remove the bolts. They're banjo bolts. I'm forgetting the size on them right now, unfortunately. But there's 2 copper crush washers on both sides. If you are removing the heads, try to knock that out as soon as possible, just because it's a common overlooked thing and it's kind of a pain. They're kind of a pain to track down. I can't remember the name of the company that makes a stainless steel braided kit, but they do make it. I think it's like $200 or something like that for a stock replacement. Coventry West, they may have a few. I think I paid $80 for mine when the first go around. That's something I didn't know about. I'm telling you now, remove it. Obviously distributor, we're going to be running that. I would have liked to eventually run a Mega Squirt 3, and that will take care of the fuel and the spark, but for right now they'll be running a distributor. Obviously the pedestal for the throttle, that's staying. I'm going to try to get the alternator rebuilt, as well as the power steering. The water pump looks in good shape. Obviously everything here just needs to be cleaned up, as well as all the bolts and the bags. Those are going to be degreased, and then I would like to have them zinc coated. And then for this pile over here, believe it or not, everything in this pile here is already off the car in the engine, aside from the wiring harness and the torque converter. So manifolds, I'm using Simply Performance manifolds. All the vacuum hoses, almost all the vacuum hoses are off the car and deleted. All the smog's deleted. The idler pulley, like I said earlier, the tensioner for it, and that's for you know, I can't even remember what those are for. I wanted to say it was for the smog pump, but I can't remember removing any of that. But well, at any rate, all that's being removed. The smog pump pipe that goes from the back of the engine and actually connects here into that port there. That's removed. And I don't think I'm forgetting anything else. I did just check, and there is still oil in this thing, and I should have drained the oil before I even started this. I just assumed. But there's still oil, which is the reason why the water rails are still on, so I could lift it up and drain the oil. So we are really close to getting the heads off the engine now. So there's only a few more things to do, and we'll be removing the heads, which I'm really excited about. Oh, and one last thing that is not on the car currently is this starter. I can't remember if I've already mentioned it, and if I haven't, that is a stock Lucas starter. That this is actually a brand new starter that the previous owner bought, which is wild because these now go for like $500, and it's brand new with really low time. In the car right now is a Denso gear reduction starter, and it is literally, I'm not even kidding you, half the size and about half the weight. This thing weighs a ton. Something that is actually kind of funny. I kind of like the sound that these starters make. It's a really old school kind of like Denso Countach sound. It's kind of funny, kind of weird, but those make a cool sound. However, I'm not using that starter. I will be using a gear reduction starter like the one that's already in the car. So, one last pan in my messy garage of everything that we've taken off so far, and we got a lot left to go. So, I think that's where I'm going to end it here for tonight. If I decide to do another time lapse of just cleaning up the engine, that's what we'll cut to then. But if not, then I'll see you guys in part 2. Thanks. Alright guys, so I am going to end it here. This is going to be the end of part 1. So everything I've done off camera is remove the beckets on this side, that side. All the oil pipes are now removed. And now we're ready to remove the heads, which is going to be in part 2. In part 2, I really want to do a detailed video on how to remove the heads, so I'll be covering that. And then after that, we'll be able to see what condition the engine's in, so that's going to be exciting to see. But anyways, I don't want to make this a long video, so I'm going to end it here. I will see you guys in part 2. Thanks.